Captain Jake Sullivan walked through the dark corridors of the secret military base hidden deep inside the asteroid belt. His footsteps echoed against the metal walls as he carried the most dangerous document in human history. The folder in his hands contained blueprints that could change everything or destroy humanity completely. The base was called Shadow Point, and officially it did not exist. No records showed its location, and no government budget included its funding. Only 12 people in the entire human military knew about this place, and Jake was about to become the 13th. He had been chosen for a mission that would either make him a hero or get him executed for treason against the Galactic Council. 6 months ago, everything had been different. Humans were still considered a young species by the galaxy's standards, and they followed the rules set by older alien civilizations. The Galactic Council controlled trade routes and decided which species could build what kind of ships. Humans were allowed small patrol vessels and cargo ships, but nothing that could threaten the established order. Then Dr. Lisa Morgan made a discovery that changed everything. She was working in her laboratory on Earth trying to solve the problem of faster space travel when she accidentally created something that should have been impossible. Her experiment with quantum particles had torn a hole in space itself, and when she looked through it, she could see distant stars as if they were right next to her. Lisa realized she had found a way to fold space and time like a piece of paper. Her quantum resonance drive could make a ship exist in multiple places at once or move faster than anything the galaxy had ever seen. But when she showed her discovery to the military commanders, they saw something else entirely. They saw a weapon that could make humans the most powerful species in the galaxy. The problem was that building such a ship would be illegal under Galactic Council law. For 1,000 years, the Council had maintained peace by preventing any single species from becoming too strong. They had rules about ship sizes and weapon types, and any violation was considered an act of war. But the human military leaders were tired of being treated like children who needed permission to defend themselves. Admiral Carl Hayes was the one who made the final decision. He was an old soldier who had fought in the border wars against alien raiders, and he knew that humanity needed to be strong to survive. When Lisa showed him what her drive could do, he immediately ordered the construction of a secret warship that would use her technology. The project was given the code named Leviathan, and work began immediately at Shadow Point. The best engineers and scientists from across human space were quietly transferred to the asteroid base. They were told they were working on a new type of cargo ship, but the smart ones figured out the truth pretty quickly. Jake had been commanding a patrol ship on the frontier when the orders came. He was to report to Shadow Point immediately and tell no one where he was going. His family thought he had been assigned to a boring desk job, and he let them believe it. The truth was too dangerous to share. Now he stood outside Admiral Hayes' office holding the final blueprints for humanity's most powerful warship. The door opened, and Jake stepped inside to find the Admiral staring at a holographic display showing alien fleet movements near human space. "They know something is happening," Admiral Hayes said without turning around. "Our intelligence sources report unusual activity in the Zephyrian fleet. They are moving ships toward our border." Jake looked at the display and saw dozens of alien warships taking positions that could blockade human space if needed. The Zephyrians were crystal beings who commanded some of the most advanced technology in the galaxy. If they were getting ready for war, it meant the Council suspected what humans were building. "The Leviathan is our only chance," Admiral Hayes continued. "If we can complete construction before they move against us, we might be able to negotiate from a position of strength." Jake opened the folder and spread the blueprints across the Admiral's desk. The ship design was unlike anything humans had built before. Where their previous vessels were small and practical, the Leviathan was massive and covered in weapon systems. Its quantum resonance drive took up nearly half the ship, and the power systems were designed to channel enough energy to destroy planets. "Dr. Morgan believes the drive will work," Jake reported. "Her team has run thousands of simulations and built small test models. The quantum field generators are ready for installation, and the exotic matter containment systems have passed all safety tests." Admiral Hayes picked up one of the blueprints and studied the weapon specifications. The primary armament was something called a quantum torpedo launcher that could fire projectiles through folded space. The secondary weapons included particle beam arrays and gravitational pulse cannons. Even the ship's defensive systems were aggressive with shields that could reflect enemy fire back at attackers. "The aliens will call this an abomination, Admiral," Hayes said quietly. "They will say we are trying to upset the balance of power that has kept peace in the galaxy." Jake nodded, but he understood the truth. The peace the aliens talked about was really a system where older species controlled younger ones. Humans were expected to mine asteroids and grow food while the council members made all the important decisions. The Leviathan represented humanity's refusal to accept that arrangement. "How long until completion?" Admiral Hayes asked. "Chief Engineer Maya Rodriguez estimates 6 more months if we work around the clock," Jake replied. "But we will need to start moving the construction crews soon. Our scouts report alien ships getting closer to the asteroid belt." Admiral Hayes walked to his window and looked out at the construction bay where the Leviathan was taking shape. The ship's hull was already impressive, even though it was only half finished. Advanced human alloys mixed with experimental materials created armor that could withstand attacks from entire fleets. The quantum drive housing glowed with strange energy that made space itself seem to bend around it. "The Council will demand we stop construction," Admiral Hayes said. "They will threaten war and try to convince our own government to shut down the project." Jake had been expecting this. The Galactic Council had ways of pressuring species that stepped out of line. They could cut off trade or impose economic sanctions. They might even support rebel groups within human space to create internal problems. "What are your orders, sir?" Jake asked. Admiral Hayes turned back to face him with determination in his eyes. "We finish the ship. No matter what threats they make or what pressure they apply, we complete the Leviathan. Humanity will not kneel to alien masters anymore." Jake felt a chill run down his spine as he realized what they were really doing. They were not just building a warship, they were declaring independence from the Galactic Order. The Leviathan would either make humans free or it would start a war that could destroy their entire species, but looking at the blueprints, Jake knew they had no choice. The galaxy had rules designed to keep humans weak, and those rules had to be broken. The Leviathan was their weapon against oppression and their key to a future where humanity controlled its own destiny among the stars. Chief Engineer Maya Rodriguez wiped the sweat from her forehead as she watched her team install the massive quantum resonance drive into the heart of the Leviathan. The construction bay hummed with activity as hundreds of workers moved around. The growing warship like ants building something that would change the galaxy forever. Sparks flew from welding torches and the air filled with the smell of hot metal and exotic particles. Maya had been building ships for 20 years, but nothing had prepared her for this project. Every system on the Leviathan broke the rules that alien civilizations had followed for centuries. Where other species built elegant vessels that looked like works of art, humans had created something purely functional and absolutely terrifying. The ship looked like a predator made of metal and energy, ready to hunt across the stars. The quantum drive was the most amazing and dangerous thing Maya had ever worked with. Dr. Lisa Morgan had spent weeks explaining how it worked, but Maya still felt like she was dealing with magic rather than science. The drive could fold space and time, making the ship exist in multiple places at once or move faster than light itself. The crystalline matrices that powered it were grown from materials that should not exist according to everything the galaxy knew about physics. "How are the weapon systems coming along?" Maya asked Commander Ben Tyler, who was supervising the installation. Of the primary armament, Ben looked up from his control panel with a grin that made Maya nervous. He was the kind of man who enjoyed explosions a little too much, and the Leviathan gave him plenty of opportunities to be creative with destruction. The main gun alone could crack a moon in half, but it was the secondary weapons that would really shock the aliens. "The quantum torpedo launchers are online and tested," Ben reported. "Each torpedo creates a small black hole that exists for exactly 3 seconds before collapsing. The gravitational pulse cannons can create gravity waves strong Enough to crush enemy ships into metal pancakes? And the particle beam arrays can cut through any known armor like it was paper. Maya shook her head as she looked at the weapon specifications. Humans had a talent for turning anything into a weapon, and the Leviathan was proof of that ability. Even the ship's defensive systems were aggressive, with shields that could absorb enemy fire and redirect it back at attackers with twice the original power. But the most revolutionary system was something Dr. Morgan called the psychic amplifier. Humans had always been different from other species in ways that aliens did not understand. Where other races were logical and predictable, humans were emotional and stubborn. The amplifier could take human determination and anger and turn it into actual destructive force that could be aimed at enemies. "The aliens are going to hate this ship," Maya said as she watched a team of workers install crystalline panels that would channel human emotions into weapon energy. "Good," Ben replied. "Maybe they will finally understand that we are not going to be their servants anymore." The work continued day and night as reports came in about alien fleet movements. The Galactic Council was definitely suspicious about what humans were doing in the asteroid belt. Scout ships had been detected at the edge of the system, and diplomatic messages were becoming more demanding. The Zephyrian ambassador had requested an immediate inspection of all human military facilities. Maya knew they were running out of time. The Leviathan was still months away from completion, but already the aliens were preparing to stop them. Intelligence reports showed 3 different alien fleets moving toward human space with enough firepower to sterilize entire planets. The Council was not going to let humans build a ship that could challenge their authority. Dr. Morgan appeared at Maya's workstation carrying a tablet full of new modifications to the drive system. The scientist looked exhausted but excited as she showed Maya the latest improvements to their quantum technology. Each day brought new discoveries that made the ship more powerful and more dangerous. "I have found a way to make the drive more stable," Dr. Morgan explained. "If we add these resonance dampeners, we can prevent the quantum field from collapsing under stress. The ship will be able to maintain multiple dimensional phases even during combat." Maya studied the new plans and felt her heart race as she understood what Dr. Morgan was suggesting. The Leviathan would not just be fast and heavily armed, it would be almost impossible to hit. Enemy weapons would pass through empty space while the human ship existed in 17 different dimensions at the same time. "How long to install these modifications?" Maya asked. 2 weeks if we work around the clock," Dr. Morgan replied. "But we need to be careful. The quantum fields are becoming unstable as we push the technology beyond its design limits. One mistake could tear a hole in space that swallows the entire asteroid belt." Maya felt a chill run down her spine as she realized they were playing with forces that could destroy everything they were trying to protect, but they had no choice. The aliens would never allow humans to be equals, and the only way to change that was to build something so powerful that the galaxy had to respect them. The work became more urgent as external sensors detected alien ships getting closer to their location. The Nexari Empire had moved 4 battle fleets to positions where they could blockade human space. The Corethian Dominion was sending their invisible dreadnoughts to patrol the borders. Even the peaceful Ethereal Consortium had activated their war fleets for the first time in centuries. "They are all working together," Commander Tyler observed as he watched the tactical displays. "Species that have been enemies for thousands of years are cooperating to stop us from finishing this ship." Maya understood why the aliens were so scared. For a millennium they had maintained peace by making sure no single species became too powerful. The Galactic Council controlled which races could build advanced weapons and how many ships they were allowed to have. Humans had been assigned the role of farmers and miners, while the older species made all the important decisions. The Leviathan represented more than just a powerful warship. It was humanity's declaration that they would not accept their assigned place in the galactic hierarchy. If humans could build one ship that challenged the Council's authority, what would stop them from building 100 such ships? The established order would collapse and younger species might start demanding equality, but Maya and her team kept working despite the growing threats. Every rivet they drove was an act of rebellion against alien authority. Every system they activated was a step toward human independence. The aliens had made one crucial mistake when they tried to keep humanity down. They had underestimated human stubbornness and the refusal to accept defeat. As Maya watched the Leviathan take shape, she knew they were creating something that would change the galaxy forever. The ship was becoming more than just a weapon. It was becoming a symbol of human determination to be free. When it was finished, no alien would ever again be able to tell humans what they could or could not do among the stars. Captain Jake Sullivan stood on the bridge of the Leviathan as the massive warship prepared for its first journey into space. The maiden voyage was supposed to be a simple test flight to check the ship's systems, but intelligence reports showed alien fleets gathering at every possible exit from the asteroid belt. What should have been a peaceful shakedown cruise was about to become humanity's first battle for independence. The bridge was unlike anything built on previous human ships. Instead of the cramped control rooms found on patrol vessels, the Leviathan's command center was spacious and filled with displays showing information about weapon systems that could destroy entire fleets. Jake felt the weight of responsibility as he looked at controls that could either save humanity or start a war that would consume the galaxy. Lieutenant Amy Foster sat at the navigation station running final checks on the quantum resonance drive. She was one of Dr. Morgan's best students and the only person besides the inventor herself who truly understood how to operate the revolutionary propulsion system. Her hands moved across controls that could fold space and time, making the ship exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Drive systems are stable, Captain," Amy reported. "Quantum field generators are operating within normal parameters and the exotic matter containment is holding steady." Jake nodded but kept his eyes on the tactical display showing the alien forces waiting for them. The Corethian Dominion had positioned 3 of their invisible dreadnoughts along the most likely escape routes. These ships were the pride of their fleet, with cloaking technology that made them completely undetectable until they opened fire. Each dreadnought carried enough firepower to destroy a space station. "Any word from command about our mission orders?" asked Commander Ben Tyler from the weapons station. Jake looked at the sealed orders he had received from Admiral Hayes just before departure. The instructions were simple but terrifying. The Leviathan was to break through the alien blockade and reach open space where it could demonstrate its capabilities to the entire galaxy. If the aliens tried to stop them, they were authorized to use any force necessary to complete the mission. "We proceed as planned," Jake announced to his crew. "Launch in 30 minutes. The next half hour passed quickly as final preparations were made. Dr. Morgan appeared on the bridge to monitor her quantum drive during its first real test. Chief Engineer Maya Rodriguez checked every system one last time to make sure nothing would fail at the worst possible moment. The entire crew of 800 people prepared for a battle that would determine humanity's future. When the time came, Jake gave the order to launch. The Leviathan's engines came to life with a sound like reality itself being torn apart. The quantum drive created fields of energy that made space bend and twist around the ship. For a moment it seemed like the massive warship was in 17 different places at once before it settled into normal space and began moving toward the asteroid belt's edge. The first few hours passed peacefully as the Leviathan flew through empty space, testing its systems. Amy practiced using the quantum drive to make small jumps while Ben ran diagnostics on the weapon arrays. Everything was working perfectly until the proximity alarms began screaming warnings about incoming threats. "Multiple contacts approaching fast," reported Navigator Emma Clark from her station. "I count 12 ships moving in attack formation." Jake looked at the tactical display and felt his blood run cold. The Corethian dreadnoughts had decloaked and were moving toward them with weapons charging. Each enemy ship was 3 times larger than the Leviathan and carried enough firepower to crack planets. The alien commanders clearly expected an easy victory against what they thought was just another human prototype. "All hands to battle stations," Jake ordered. "Charge weapons and, prepare for combat." The Corinthian attack came without warning or demands for surrender. Streams of energy weapons reached across space toward the Leviathan, while invisible missiles locked onto the human ship's signature. The aliens were not interested in capture or negotiation. They wanted to destroy humanity's most dangerous creation before it could threaten their dominance, but the Corinthian commanders had made a fatal mistake. They were fighting according to the old rules, where ships moved in predictable patterns and weapons fired in straight lines. The Leviathan operated by entirely different principles that no alien had ever encountered before. Engage quantum phase. Shift, Jake ordered. Amy's hands flew across her controls as she activated Dr. Morgan's most revolutionary system. The quantum resonance drive did not just move the ship faster than light, it allowed the Leviathan to exist in multiple dimensions. At the same time, enemy weapons passed through empty space while the human warship remained untouchable in 17 different phases of reality. The alien commanders watched in horror, as their most powerful weapons had no effect on the human ship. Particle beams that could melt asteroids passed harmlessly through what looked like empty space. Missiles that could track targets across star systems lost their lock and exploded uselessly in the void, but the Leviathan could strike back from any dimension it chose. Ben Tyler smiled grimly as he activated the quantum torpedo launchers. Each projectile created a tiny black hole that existed for exactly 3 seconds before collapsing. The gravitational forces were enough to crush the heavily armored Corinthian ships like tin cans. Firing quantum torpedoes, Ben announced. The first salvo struck the enemy formation with devastating effect. 3 Corinthian dreadnoughts simply vanished as artificial black holes tore them apart at the molecular level. The remaining ships tried to retreat but found themselves trapped by gravitational distortions that pulled them toward destruction. Jake watched in amazement as the most feared fleet in the galaxy was reduced to expanding clouds of superheated plasma in less than 5 minutes. The Leviathan had not just won its first battle. It had proven that human technology could defeat anything the aliens possessed, but victory came at a cost. The quantum drive was showing signs of strain from maintaining multiple dimensional phases during combat. Dr. Morgan warned that prolonged use could cause the exotic matter containment to fail with catastrophic results. The ship was powerful, but it was still a prototype with untested limits. Long-range sensors are detecting massive fleet movements, Emma reported. Multiple alien civilizations are converging on our position. Jake looked at the display showing hundreds of enemy ships approaching from every direction. The Galactic Council had clearly decided that the Leviathan was too dangerous to be allowed to exist. They were sending everything they had to destroy the human warship before it could reach friendly space. The real test was just beginning. Humanity's most powerful weapon was alone against the combined might of 12 alien civilizations who would stop at nothing to maintain their control over the galaxy. But Jake felt no fear as he looked at his crew. They had proven that human determination and ingenuity could overcome any obstacle. The Leviathan would either break through to freedom or go down, fighting in a blaze of glory that would inspire resistance across the stars. The neutral zone had become a graveyard of alien ships as the Leviathan fought the largest space battle in galactic history. For 3 days, Captain Jake Sullivan and his crew held off wave after wave of enemy fleets while the quantum resonance drive pushed reality to its breaking point. Wreckage from destroyed warships drifted through space like metal snow. While the human ship continued its impossible dance between dimensions, Dr. Lisa Morgan worked frantically in her laboratory deep inside. The ship's alarm screamed warnings about system failures. The quantum drive was bleeding exotic radiation that made space itself rebel against the laws of physics. Every time they used the dimensional phase shift, the ship's systems suffered more damage, but without it, they would have been destroyed hours ago. The exotic matter containment is failing, Dr. Morgan reported over the communication system. If we keep pushing the drive this hard, we might tear a hole in space that could swallow the entire sector. Jake heard the warning but had no choice except to continue fighting. Outside the ship's hull, 12 different alien civilizations had gathered their most powerful fleets. The Vorthek Collective's bioships writhed through space like living nightmares, with weapons that fired streams of acidic plasma. The ethereal consortium's energy beings crackled with the power of captured stars as they formed geometric attack patterns. The machine intelligence of the Nexus brought mathematical perfection to the art of destruction. Against this overwhelming force stood one human ship and her crew of 800 souls who refused to surrender. They had been fighting for 3 days without rest as enemy reinforcements continued to arrive. The aliens had put aside ancient rivalries and territorial disputes to face what they saw as an existential threat to their way of life. Commander Ben Tyler managed the weapon systems, as quantum torpedoes and gravitational pulse cannons fired continuously at the approaching enemy formations. The ship's ammunition was running low, but human ingenuity found ways to keep fighting. They converted spare parts into improvised weapons and used the ship's own quantum field generators to create destructive energy bursts. The Zephyrian Crystalline fleet is approaching from Sector 7, reported Navigator Emma Clark. I count 47 ships, including their flagship, the Crystal Throne. Jake felt his heart sink as he saw the new arrivals on the tactical display. The Zephyrians were the most technologically advanced species in the galaxy, and their flagship was a mobile fortress that could destroy planets. If they joined the battle, the Leviathan would face odds that even human stubbornness could not overcome, but Lieutenant Amy Foster had been working on modifications to the quantum drive that might give them one final advantage. She had discovered that the ship's dimensional phasing could be reversed to pull objects from other realities into normal space. Instead of hiding from enemy weapons, they could redirect attacks from parallel dimensions where the battle had different outcomes. Captain, I think I can use the quantum field to absorb energy from the enemy weapons, Amy reported. If we reverse the phase polarity, we can channel their attacks into our own power systems. Dr. Morgan appeared on the bridge with a wild look in her eyes. The constant exposure to exotic radiation was affecting her mind, but it was also giving her insights into quantum mechanics that no human had ever possessed. She had been working on something that would either save them all or destroy everything within 100 light years. The aliens are trying to lock us into normal space with a reality anchor, Dr. Morgan announced. But I can turn their own weapon against them. If we channel the anchor's power through our quantum drive, we can create a feedback loop that will overload every ship in the enemy fleet. Jake looked at the scientist and realized she was proposing something incredibly dangerous. The reality anchor was designed to prevent dimensional phasing by fixing objects in a single layer of spacetime. But if they could reverse its effects and amplify the energy through their own systems, they might be able to create a quantum explosion that would end the battle. What are the risks? Jake asked. We might accidentally destroy half the galaxy, VR Morgan replied calmly. Or we might just eliminate every enemy ship within 50 light years. The mathematics are too complex to predict exactly what will happen. Jake looked around the bridge at his exhausted crew. They had been fighting impossible odds for 3 days, and their ship was falling apart around them. The quantum drive was becoming unstable, and the weapon systems were overheating. They were down to their last few quantum torpedoes, and the enemy fleets showed no signs of retreat. Do it, Jake ordered. Chief Engineer Maya Rodriguez coordinated the modifications from the engine room as her team worked to reconfigure the quantum field generators. They had minutes before the reality anchor activated and locked the Leviathan into normal space where conventional weapons could destroy it. Every person on the ship understood that they were about to attempt something that had never been tried before. The Galactic Council's ultimate weapon activated with a pulse of energy that reached across space to fix the human ship in a single dimension. For a moment it seemed like the Leviathan was trapped and helpless as enemy fleets moved in for the kill. Thousands of weapons charged to fire the final shots that would end humanity's rebellion. Then Dr. Morgan activated her modified quantum drive and reality screamed in protest. The Leviathan did not just resist the reality anchor, it absorbed its power and converted it into pure destructive force. The ship became a focal point where multiple dimensions collapsed into each other, releasing energy that had been locked away since the universe began. The explosion that followed was visible from neighboring star systems. Waves of quantum energy spread outward from the Leviathan, destroying everything in their path. 17 enemy fleets simply vanished as the fabric of space-time tore them apart at the subatomic level. The Vorthek bioships dissolved into their component molecules while the ethereal energy beings were scattered across multiple dimensions. When the chaos finally ended, the Leviathan floated alone in a new nebula created from the remains of the enemy fleets. The ship had survived, but barely. Most of its systems were damaged beyond repair, and the quantum drive would need months of work before it could function again. But they had won an impossible victory against overwhelming odds. Jake stood on the bridge looking at the expanding cloud of glowing gas that had once been the galaxy's most powerful military force. In 3 days of fighting, they had not just defeated their enemies, they had proven that human technology could reshape reality itself. The old order was finished, and a new age was about to begin. The galaxy would never be the same after what they had witnessed. 12 civilizations had united to destroy one human ship, and instead they had lost everything. The Leviathan had become more than just a warship. It had become proof that humanity would never again bow to alien masters. 6 months after the Battle of the Neutral Zone, the galaxy looked very different than it had before the Leviathan changed everything. Captain Jake Sullivan stood in the command center of Luna Station watching construction crews work on 12 new warships that would carry humanity's message of freedom to every corner of space. The secret was out, and the entire galaxy now knew that humans possessed technology that made them equals to any civilization among the stars. The alien governments had tried everything to maintain their control after their fleets were destroyed. The Zephyrian Empire had threatened economic sanctions, while the Korethian Dominion had attempted to form new military alliances. The Ethereal Consortium had even offered to share some of their advanced technology if humans would agree to limit their expansion. But it was too late for negotiations and compromises. Admiral Carl Hayes had been promoted to Supreme Commander of Human Space Forces, and he was not interested in returning to the old system where aliens decided what humans could do. The construction of the Leviathan fleet proceeded at full speed, with shipyards on every human world working day and night to build vessels that incorporated Dr. Lisa Morgan's revolutionary quantum technology. Dr. Morgan herself had become the most famous scientist in human history, but the constant exposure to exotic radiation during the Great Battle had changed her in ways that nobody fully understood. She could now see quantum possibilities that existed in parallel dimensions, and her mind processed mathematical concepts that had never been discovered before. Her new research was opening doorways to technologies that would reshape civilization itself. The quantum medical systems are ready for testing, Dr. Morgan reported to Jake during their weekly meeting. We can now cure any disease by adjusting the quantum state of damaged cells. Cancer and genetic disorders can be eliminated completely, and aging can be slowed or even reversed. Jake looked at the research reports with amazement. The same technology that had made the Leviathan nearly invincible was being adapted for peaceful purposes that would benefit all of humanity. Quantum medicine could heal injuries that had been considered permanent, while resonance engines made faster than light travel as easy as stepping through a door. But the most impressive development was in terraforming technology. Dr. Morgan's team had learned to manipulate reality itself, allowing them to transform entire planets in days rather than centuries. Dead worlds could be given atmospheres and climates that supported human life, while hostile environments could be made welcoming with just a few quantum field generators. How are the other species reacting to our expansion? Jake asked. Commander Ben Tyler, who had been promoted to Admiral of the Leviathan fleet, appeared on the communication screen from his flagship. His reports from the frontier showed that humanity's rapid growth was causing panic among the older civilizations who had never expected to be challenged by what they considered a primitive species. Most of them are choosing to negotiate rather than fight, Ben reported. The Nexari Empire has opened trade talks, and the Vorthok Collective is offering territorial concessions. They all saw what happened to the fleets that tried to stop us, and nobody wants to be on the receiving end of our quantum weapons. Jake nodded, but he knew that not all aliens were willing to accept the new reality. Intelligence reports showed that several species were attempting to develop their own quantum technology while others were forming secret alliances to resist human expansion. The galaxy was entering a period of rapid change that would determine which civilizations survived and which ones faded into history, the most dramatic. Transformation was happening in the political structure that had governed galactic affairs for over 1,000 years. The Galactic Council's rigid hierarchy where ancient species dominated. Younger ones, through superior technology and numbers, had crumbled completely. In its place was emerging a new order based on merit and determination, rather than age and tradition. Many younger species that had been oppressed by the Council were now demanding independence and equality. The Alteron Republic had declared its freedom from Zephyrian control, while the Kelti Federation was building its own fleet of advanced warships. Humanity's example had inspired a wave of rebellion that was spreading across the galaxy. Captain Jake Sullivan now served as Earth's first galactic ambassador, dealing with alien governments that were still adjusting to humanity's new status. The species that had once treated humans like children who needed permission to defend themselves were now eager to sign treaties and establish favorable relationships. The Ethereal Consortium is requesting a formal alliance, Jake reported to Admiral Hayes during their monthly strategy meeting. They are offering to share their energy manipulation technology in exchange for access to our quantum drive systems. Admiral Hayes considered the proposal carefully. The humans had gone from being a minor species confined to a small corner of space to being one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. But with that power came responsibilities and challenges that they were still learning to handle. What do you recommend? Admiral Hayes asked. Jake had been thinking about humanity's role in the new galactic order. They could use their technology to dominate other species the way the Council had dominated them, but that would just create the same problems that had led to conflict in the first place. Instead, they had an opportunity to build something better based on cooperation rather than oppression. I think we should accept the alliance, but with conditions, Jake replied. We share technology with species that treat their citizens fairly and respect the rights of younger civilizations. We help those who are fighting for freedom, but we do not support governments that oppress their own people. The decision represented a fundamental shift in how galactic politics would work. Instead of maintaining order through fear and military superiority, the new system would be based on principles of justice and equality. Species that wanted access to advanced technology would have to prove they deserved it by treating others with respect. As Jake looked out at the stars from his office window, he thought about how much had changed since the Leviathan first left its secret construction site. Humanity had not just gained independence, they had become the defenders of freedom for every species that refused to accept domination by others. The galaxy's old rulers had tried to forbid humanity's rise to power, but they had forgotten a crucial truth about the human species. Humans had never been very good at following rules they did not help right, and they were even worse at accepting limitations imposed by others. The age of human expansion had begun, and with it came the promise that no species would ever again have to kneel before alien masters. The Leviathan and her sister ships patrolled the space lanes, ensuring that freedom and justice were more than just words. They were principles worth fighting for and dying to protect. The universe would never be the same because one species had refused to accept their assigned place in the galactic order. Humanity had proven that determination and ingenuity could overcome any obstacle and that courage could triumph over overwhelming odds. The future belonged to those who were brave enough to reach for it.